Hey Guillermo, how's it going? If you keep on wandering around in the forms of that particular engine room, how about if you stop walking and then just sit completely still, or in this case, stay completely still, then you would be fine with that, I have to be honest with you. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Piglet here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again, of course, we're the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii. So, last time we actually did get things started with the forms of the engine room and managed to able to actually just explore two galaxies most likely, which there are Gold Leaf Galaxy, and especially noticeable we did manage to collect it 4 power stars in the forms of Sea Slide Galaxy. So yeah, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be continuing things off with the forms of not only by the forms of the engine room, but also trying to able to finish up with Sea Slide Galaxy for now, until later on at it anyway. And then as a result we can able to actually move on to the next couple of stages up ahead by the forms of the engine room. So yeah, by the forms of that though, we need to able to actually just once again collect those 5 silver stars in the forms of this particular level itself. So naturally that's how it goes. So yeah, for those of you who do not know already for this point in time, I do apologize by the forms of the lack of uploading schedules recently during the weekend. It's because, well, the thing is, I was way too busy on stuff like this happens, mainly by the forms of that recently I'm still managed to able to actually play both RPG games recently, which is still Kingdom Hearts 3, to able to get the rest of these ingredients by the forms of you know, for the ultimate weapon coming up, and especially noticeable with the forms of Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey from the Nintendo 3DS. Even though the only game I was really into at this point is actually easily be Bowser's Inside Story, rather than the forms of Bowser Jr.'s Journey. I have no idea why. It's because of how the fact that I'm just a little bit too mixed with the forms of that little Captain Ally system in the forms of that specific Bowser Jr.'s Journey game, because it looks exactly like how he did on the forms of Bowser's Minions, on the forms of in the Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga remake on the 3DS, which I kinda wish if that wasn't a thing, although the reason why they exist in the first place is because of the you know, expanded storylines, or in this case, behind the scenes, from the forms of where Bowser Jr. managed to able to get involved with, you know, with, during him throughout in his journey. So, you know, you could get the idea for that point. So, and another reason why is the fact that I was going to able to actually, this was uploaded in during the likes of today, was actually forms of the 11th of January, or no, 11th of February. Sorry for a little bit of attention right there, because I keep on thinking of the release date of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, even though that game has already been out for about a month ago right now. And as a matter of fact, that, yeah, today was, you know, the 11th of February, so that means how the fact that we've pretty much almost at the halfway point of, February this year, because until next year in 2020, it would be like, you know, 29 days instead of the forms of 28, just because of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. So, yeah, as far as I can see how this will go, but even then, no, that's just how I think it is. So, few things I want to explain about this actually is the fact that since we're going to be able to discuss on these new important announcements and updates here and there, especially by the forms of not only for our channel so far, but also by the forms of how the fact that some other new relatable news as well. But even then, no, we'll save that whenever we get to the next stage after this particular mission is fully concluded. But even then, no, we've only got one more silver star left. But before we do that, let's go ahead and farm those star bits or what have you by trying to able to go after that little invisible enemy, which even then, no, luckily though for me, we actually did manage to find one of them. And as a result, we can get even more star bits in the process. So, and before we continue, let's just go ahead and grab those musical notes before we do anything, because of the extra life I need to able to go after for. And for the most part though, that's as far as I can see with this particular stage. So even then though, or in this case, for this specific mission, is that, well, obviously this place is going to be quite big in comparison to the forms of Beach Bowl Galaxy most of the time, because you'll be spending most of your time just trying to able to go back and forth in between the beginning portion of this mission, and sometimes you can actually go into the other side of the level itself. But when we get to later on though, on the other hand though, we'll probably get into probably is the longest mission in the entire game, but even then we'll save that up until for later. But for now, since we've actually collected all 5 of those silver stars, that means that much like before, you know, the power star usually exists right there. So, but the reason why I saved the 5th one on that center right there for last is because if you manage to simultaneously able to actually obtain all 5 of those silver stars, and in addition with the forms of you know, just trying to let the power star appear, and then as a result the launch star actually appears on that as well. So that's pretty convenient though. But even then though, that's besides the point. So anyways, yeah, that will pretty much wrap things up with the forms of Seaslide Galaxy for now. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next level, which is Toy Time Galaxy. In this case, easily without doubt my favorite level in the game, because what's so unique about this level though is the fact that, well, I'll explain more details on that later. So here we go with the first mission in Toy Time Galaxy, which we have Heavy Metal Mecha Bowser. So generally Mecha Bowser makes a return since Super Mario Sunshine. Although, except the fact that, oh, as far as I've realized about something, is that his model, it looks entirely different compared to the forms of the Super Mario Sunshine counterpart. But that's just how I think it is, though. So, there's also another reason why it took so long to actually get back into this uploading schedules of all things, is because of how the fact that, well, once again, that whenever I was trying to do some commentarying of all things, sometimes my throat itself can get pretty sore every once in a while, which thankfully I'm a little bit better for this point right now, but not exactly 100%, I will admit though right away, just because there are some plenty of times though that I'm almost gonna be like, you know, if I manage to eat something, and then at the same time trying to do a commentary at the same time, it might be incredibly rude, I gotta tell you that much, and especially noticeable, it makes it incredibly difficult to actually just doing commentary on things at the same time. But anyways though, if we go onto this side right there, not only does it contain, you know, a plethora of coins, or in this case 2 coins, I might add, but also by the forms of the live stream in here and there as well. So naturally though, it might be pretty easy to miss though, because, whoa! Goodness gracious, that almost gonna make me trip up or what have you, but hey, at least I made it so far. So anyways, let's go ahead and just screw that nail in, even though sometimes my platforming departments can get pretty unskillful every now and then, but even then, that's as far as I can say how this will go. And as you can tell from my Power Stars count, I've actually reached up to 74 Power Stars. So, naturally, the same number as far as how it does it for Cap King, that's what I meant to say for this matter, Cap King 74 number coding. So even then though, still he needs to get back into the forms of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And before we get to that game, however, though, we got ourselves the next transformation. You transformed into Spring Mario, press A at the right moment to bounce high, boing. Of all the power-ups in this game though, including the sequel, which we'll get into that until, you know, the second half of the year, which, if you those you couldn't tell, because, you know, Super Mario Galaxy 2 has been, almost been out for about, like, 9 years or so. But, here we have the, possibly one of my least favorite power-ups to use in this game in particular, and that is the forms of Spring Mario, or in this case, Spring Mushroom, if, you know, depends on the forms of what items you're gonna call it them. The only thing I don't like about this power-up though, compared to the rest, is the fact that it's basically can be described as for a single word. Pretty uncontrollable at times. Well, because of this though, you could still manage to move around with the analog stick, that's fine. But the bad thing about this though is the fact that it's really hard to control this thing sometimes, and it's really hard to keep it steady sometimes. Even especially noticeable when you come towards bloody forms of, like, let's just say, take these narrow paths for example, in the forms of during the later portion of the game later on, that sometimes I easily lost my footing due to the forms of how the fact that with my spring techniques is pretty unstable most of the time. I could wish if they fixed that, but unfortunately though we have to cope with the forms of the uncontrollable spring momentum, because either way, if you try able to actually time your bouncing well enough with that just press the A button, then you would be fine if you manage to able to bounce it really high. But luckily though, since we did manage to get rid of that easily, by simply just trying to able to not only get hit by the forms of enemies, but also by the forms of, you know, taking part of the forms of the launch star itself. So, yeah, you get this solution for this point here. So anyways, let's go ahead and grab some more of those star bits. Eventually, that, you know, whenever we get to later on throughout this game offers, I'll probably stop going to be doing, you know, trying to go after every single star bits as we can, because I'm pretty sure enough that we've actually got quite enough of those star bits total amount as far as this point in time, whenever we get to the, close towards the end. So, here we go folks, on to the forms of the next somewhat of a boss fight of any sort, and that is of course Heavy Metal Mecha Bowser. So, all you're doing this is pretty simple, you need to go climb all the way up to the top basically, so I have no idea. Okay, quick error right there, because Rarity didn't manage to able to pop over to see how I'm getting on, and of course that I can't really tell about my Valentine's present for Rarity, so even then I'll keep it as a secret, say. So anyways though, yeah, this is the forms of, you know, Heavy Metal Mecha Bowser. So, unlike the forms of in Super Mario Sunshine counterparts that you're going to be spending most of your time on the roller coaster to deal the damage on Mecha Bowser, in this particular incarnation of Mecha Bowser, all you have to do is basically we have to climb on top of him. Or to be more accurate though, we need to do a lot of like climbing and sometimes platforming every once in a while. But either way though, that's as far as this boss battles goes. But even then though, the only time you need to worry about though is of course the enemies themselves, and in addition with the forms of several hazards, like, you know, the fire bars as you can see right there. And then as soon as we reach to the top, which I'm assuming that might actually be its face, or in this case its mouth, nose, and especially with the eyes and its head, then we need to avoid a lot of fire, and especially noticeable with the forms of Kamek himself. And not to mention though, since we're actually going to be going on top of the forms of its head, dodge this laser enemy over there. Even though the laser enemies cannot be harmed by it, well, you know, because even then though, because it's made out of metal. But basically his weak spot is just only one hit point, and that is the forms of like, these ground pound marks. But if you do so, if you can either dive straight down to that specific hole, or you can essentially just destroy all these ground pound pillars, then you would able to deal with this boss fight. I'm not exactly sure if I demonstrate with the forms of that, without even like going straight down inside of its head. But even then though, that's because of how the fact that I've normally done this boss normally by simply just dive straight in, and then as a result, he just, well, self-destructs. So, or in this case, just blows up and all that stuff. And once in a while, a whole bunch of gear modes just managed to able to go ourselves a little bit of a critical condition, which even then though, that's only because, you know, they've been trapped inside the forms of the mecha, or in this case, Heavy Metal Mecha Bowser for this whole time. So, yeah, overall, this boss battle is not that much of a challenge to me. So, Mario meets Mario. Oh my gosh, time paradox statement. Like, it could be very similar to the forms of, one of those Sonic Generations PC mods, but back in during the likes of in 2015, whenever they did manage to release buddy forms of Super Mario Generations for the PC mod of Sonic Generations, that one time you take control of not only modern Mario, but also classic Mario as well. Which I will say though, is that I still really think that mod is by far the best mods in the game, just because, well, first of all, you get yourselves, well, obviously have the ability to play as Marios the entire time, and especially noticeable with the forms of the actual familiar modern Mario font at the moment for the stage since 2011 from Super Mario 3D Land, and yeah, that's as far as we'll go with the forms of the time, how much coins, and you name the rest. So, and I believe this mission actually contains the secret mission, and I believe we need to go after 50 of those star bits, just like the ones back in the Space Jam Galaxy. Except, well, obviously if you know what you're doing, you should be fine, as long as you can able to actually concentrate onto that spinning cog wheel thing from the very beginning of this mission, by the way. And then as a result, you can able to go after the rest, but it forms that little specific planet right there. So even then though, yeah. And we've actually meet up against with the forms of these Tox Boxes once again, ever since in Beach Ball Galaxy, except the notable difference is the fact that obviously no forms to be seen. And as a result, it's just, you know, Tox Box that we need to worry about. And especially noticeable with the forms of those little moving spiked platforms, ever since in the forms of Flip Switch Galaxy from the Terrace Dome, except the fact that they're now going to be able to actually utilize from the actual, like, vertical pole thing, whatever they decide to call it that. I'm not 100% sure of why I decided to call it those, which I know sounds a little bit random, mind you, but either way though, that's as far as it can go for. And obviously in this mission it's very self-explanatory. Basically we need to able to actually activate every single switches, and then once all of these switches has been active, then you would able to actually accomplish this mission no problem. But this is the part I was talking about. Whenever I stumbled across by the forms of like those moving spike platforms, as you can see right there, that one time, whenever I managed the first time I played the game, I've stumbled across a somewhat of a soft locked motion right there. I think it's most notably because of the forms of this section, is that whenever I accidentally run into the forms of the actual spike platforms in somewhat between the two, and if I manage to get stuck in between those spike platforms as a result, not only does it able to actually give me a little bit of a hit point scenario, but it gives me a little bit of a stuck situation. Especially noticeable by the forms of how the fact that to make matters worse, it did manage to make my game soft locked, which even then that is a very, very, very unfortunate for that regard. But either way though, let's just go ahead and ow. I did not meant to get hit by that thing without any sort of consequences. But anyways though, after when you've done so with, you know, activating every single switches, then the power star is well hidden by the forms of how the fact that it's actually underneath the actual orange block. But again, it's very easy to able to get from here, just in case of how the fact that you would able to obtain it from here. And the secret mission is called the Flip Switch Chain, because, you know, that's how these switches comes in. So, anyways though, that's it for that mission, and if I remember correctly, since we've actually done with this mission in particular, in addition to reaching up to an even number of the amount of power stars we have, like 76 for instance, out of nowhere, the actual Prankster Commons was there. So, a little bit of a perfect opportunity that we can able to do with that. And once again, it's gonna be fast foe comments. Even then though, fast foes of Toy Time. So, yeah, and I believe fundamentally though, this might actually be not only the second fast foe comment ever since any forms of Beach Ball Galaxy, but I'm afraid this is actually the last one of them. So even then though, that expecting that the Cosmic Comments is only have like only 4 of them. And then in the forms of fast foe comments, it only has like only 2 of them, which either way though, because I have no idea why they actually put in just only 2 of those fast foe challenges right there, specifically by the forms of Beach Ball Galaxy, and especially noticeable with Toy Time Galaxy. I think the reason being for that is because they want to specifically add those 2 here because of these Tox Boxes, even then though, and also up for a challenge, and you know the rest. But obviously, this mission it plays exactly like how it did in last time, except the fact that, you know, the only major difference is that everything else in this particular mission is a lot faster. So even then though, don't expect to able to actually come across into a soft locked motion there, especially by the forms of getting stuck in between, you know, these spike platforms like that almost just did right there. But thankfully though, that's only because I didn't come across into an edge. So even then though, I should be safe for the most part though. But you know, if you're first time playing this game though, and what the hell's up with that hitbox? I mean seriously. Anyways though, so just like before, activate every single switches, and then done so, then the power star location is going to be on the exact same location as before, but you know, just hope you don't able to actually get hit too many times by the forms of, you know, some spikes platforms, and especially with the forms of the instant death Tox Boxes, unless if you're hidden inside the forms of the Tox Boxes, so you should be safe from here. So there we go, that concludes that mission, and I guess this is a farewell to the forms of the Fast Foes comments for now, but even then though, I'll save the rest of the actual dialogue or especially speech until for later down the road, but even then, no, we're not going to spoil things yet. So anyways, though, let's head back to the forms of Toy Time Galaxy for the 4th time in a row. And this time around though, we'll do the actual Mario meets Mario proper mission from there. See, Fernando, that way it should able to actually make ourselves a little bit more comfortable experience all in general. So, that I digress. So yeah, remember how the fact that we did manage to able to actually get ourselves. Do you remember, buddy, forms of how the fact that Daffy Duck has already mentioned about the fact that we've actually got ourselves not only Sonic R for the Sega Saturn, which we still have, but also by the forms of Sonic 3D, Flicky's Island, which we did manage to have. And, excuse me. And, for I've played those two so far, on the original Sega Saturn system, the fact of the matter is, though, is the fact that, well, they're both in excellent condition, though, but, except for that one teeny tiny problem, but I'll save that whenever we mention about the forms of Sonic 3D, Flicky's Island, for my actual copy of the game. But, let's get with Sonic R first. For the most part, I don't mind it at all. I mean, sometimes the draw distance can get pretty miserable sometimes, especially you can't really see about the entire horizon, unlike any forms of how it does it on, the PC version of Sonic R, especially noticeable with the forms of the Sonic Gems Collection compilation, for both for the Nintendo GameCube and PlayStation 2, while the forms of the PS2 version was actually the European or the UK version exclusive. See, Fernando, that might be a good way for me, at least if I was trying to get that compilation at some point in the future, but the thing is though, it might be a little bit redundant to able to actually just repurchase the game again, but it forms a different platform system on the PlayStation 2. But I think the only reason I have to do that is because of how the fact that, well, I enjoyed the actual Sonic Gems Collection compilation back in when it first came out. For the, you know, Nintendo GameCube, of course. But I digress, so yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, anyway, so for Mario meets Mario, as far as this mission is considered, that obviously we need to able to once again obtain 5 of those silver stars once again, but except the fact the matter is though is that you can now able to actually walk around the 8-bit style of Mario. See, Nintendo, that way you could able to do it from here. But yet again, if you manage to obtain 5 of those silver stars, then, you know, the power star is all yours. So, but keep that in mind is the fact that the green platforms will start to disappear, just like in the forms of how it did on, you know, for these little disappearing, forget what I just said. Alright, so let's head back into Toy Time Galaxy for the 5th time, but this time we're going to be doing Bouncing Down Cake Lane. So, even then, know that I'm guessing this correctly, that we have to rely on the Spring Mushroom, of course, so, yay. Well, at least as far as it's nothing too awful or anything, it's just that it just feels really difficult to control this thing sometimes. Even by the forms of whenever you're trying to do like a, whoa, that train almost gonna make me cause a death. Jeez. Anyways though, as far as what I've played Sonic R for the original Sega Saturn version of the game, it's not bad overall to me though, even though it takes a bit of a while by the forms of the controls, because even then though, what's great is the fact that since I've still managed to have the 3D Sega Saturn control pad, and then that way I could able to actually easily be able to actually walk around on the 3D plane, so naturally it just makes it easier. Well, the truth is that I've actually realized about something, is the fact that whenever I managed to play this on the analog mode, on the Sega Saturn 3D controller, to me, I feel like the momentum, especially with the forms of like selecting that specific characters, or even though that once again I'm still using Sonic the Hedgehog as the actual main playable character in Sonic R, but then I just realized about something, is the fact that it's nothing too awful or anything. Again, it's actually my first time playing the forms of the Sega Saturn version of Sonic R, because the thing is, I was used to with the forms of the GameCube controller, controller type, but when it comes to playing Sonic R in general, due to the actual Sonic Gems Collection compilation, but, whenever I play this on, whoa, Jesus Christ, whenever I play it on analog mode, to me, it just feels kind of loosely momentum-based, to me though, but again, it takes a lot of practice and such, but after a while, for about a couple of seconds or so, and I can easily get used to that. Well, the good thing about it for me, that I did manage to obtain the first Chaos Emerald for my first try. Except, I had a lot, I did have a lot of, you know, a terrible time trying to able to unlock that godforsaken Metal Sonic, because holy crap, he did really beat me up like nothing else, even on normal difficulty on Sonic R, the original version of the game. And as a result, I did manage to able to play it just fine, but sometimes though that controls and momentum sometimes screws me up at one form or another. But that's only because of how the fact that, you know, the draw distances can be a little bit more hard to see in the horizon. So, but I've managed to able to actually completely done with the forms of Resort Island at least. So I'm now moving on to Radical City, and after that, then, you know, because as a result, you know, that Sonic R was actually pretty lacking with replayability, because either way though, there's only like, you know, still 5 tracks all in all, but there are barely any multiplayer options, but aside from that, there's not much else to do from that. So, but even then though, thanks to the forms of, you know, other Sonic racing titles, specifically Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, including the upcoming title by the forms of Team Sonic Racing, things can get a little bit more self-explanatory, like more tracks, more playable characters, and you name the rest, including online play with, you know, the Sonic Racing games, modern series anyway, trilogies-wise, because either way, that I really do enjoy the forms of the actual online play and, the original Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, even though I haven't really got the trophy or achievement or anything like that, because, jeez, most of those players online just really kick my butt, even though it might no longer become a thing anymore on the Wii version, just because, you know, Nintendo Wi-Fi connection has now been, you know, discontinued recently for about, I would classify for saying for like almost 5 years ago, since 2014, which is kind of sad because I wish I could able to complete the game as far as the actual challenges list goes, but it might be too late for now just because, you know, Nintendo Wi-Fi connection software is concerned is now gone. So, but even then, let's just deal with the next boss in this specifically in this particular mission. And basically, it feels exactly like how he did back in during the likes of, you know, in the Gold Leaf Galaxy in the mission called When It Rains, It Pours, except the fact that the difference is, he's now riding onto that specific yellowy cannon machine, which is, apparently is usually going to be the electrical cannon machine cockpit. And just like before, we need to able to actually ground pound his cockpit or his stained glass, you know, dome. That way you can able to actually deal with it 3 times, and then once you've done so, then the boss will be self-explanatory. But again, the only thing it makes it difficult for you sometimes is of course the spring mushroom power-up, so expecting if you're having a hard time trying to make the actual controlling this thing in a precise way, then, you know, good luck for that, because if you keep screwing things up with that specific, bouncy momentum-wise, even with the forms of that specific jump angle, well, you have to pay attention to that, so it doesn't give me extra life. Well, it wasn't until when we get to the, you know, the sequel to Super Mario Galaxy, which is, of course, Super Mario Galaxy 2, then, the life, mushroom will be able to become an extra life if you manage to able to fill up the entire health gauge immediately. So, there we go, folks. I think that pretty much does it for Toy Time Galaxy for now, which is a shame because I do really enjoy this particular stage actually, because either way, the only thing I loved about this stage is the fact that, well, it does add a lot more variety when it comes to the actual planets themselves. Like in the first 2 missions, basically, well, specifically the first mission, that you get to able to utilize the forms of the Toy Blocks platforms, and as far as the second mission is concerned, it's going to be filled with the forms of gears or screws or you name it. And then the third mission is the fact that it's all around food. So even then, that makes it a little bit of a sweet experience. But anyways though, let's move on to the next stage, which is essentially calls it Bone Fin Galaxy, and this mission is called King Fin's Fearsome Waters. So, nothing much to do around here, other than we can able to jump into the actual planet itself. But as soon as we're able to step in, then I believe we got ourselves our next boss fight. Oh gosh, is he become like Jaws? Even though, except the fact that, oh my lord, he is really, really big. ladies and gentlemen, we'll present to you King Finn, the most intimidating boss fight in the entire game actually, just because, for one thing, he's incredibly huge, and also, since he was actually a part of the forms of the King Finn, as the forms of like from Bone Finn essentially, but basically, unlike in any other boss fights as far as I'm concerned, that when it comes to the actual hit and mounts and stuff like that, I'm considering this guy actually has like 5 hit points. See, Fernando, obviously his weak spot is able to actually just use the actual shells to able to actually attack him. So you can either use the green shells or the red shells, which is personally, I think the red shell is definitely a little bit more ruler out there, because either way though, that again, it directly homes in by the forms of any kind of enemies, including bosses as well. So even then, you can essentially try to do that. So, oh wow, that was really terrible for that angle. But on the other hand though, oh, okay, that's a bit weird. Trying to able to actually just catch that from automatic purpose. But anyways though, I did actually miss that. Whoops. But yeah, aside from that though, this boss is pretty easy, self-explanatory, assuming if you're able to actually, if you really try to able to be more skillful when it comes to able to actually just throw the green shell at the forms of the King Finn. But aside from that, I do apologize by the forms of my dialogue errors, I do apologize for that. But naturally speaking, now the fact that once you get used to it, even by the forms of you actually using the red shell, which is essentially a cakewalk, and then as a result, then you should deal with him no problem. So, but in order to actually just face him though, is the fact that you need to able to deal with Drip Drop Galaxy first, before you're able to deal with this particular, you know, that intimidating boss though. Oh jeez, he looks pretty fearsome. But I digress, so he's been shattered to pieces, and as a result, the Power Star is just, you know, they're on top of the particular reef blower or anything like that. But even then, I believe we need to watch out for that specific steam right there, just because I'm assuming you take damage if you manage to touch by them. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Alright, so that's that stage done, and I believe we're about to be, next up we're going to be doing is, of course, the Hungry Luma stage. See, Fernando, we've actually now got 80 power stars, so we've almost gone close to the forms of that specific higher amount, which is, of course, 120 power stars, but even then, we'll explain more on that later. But for now, let's get out of the forms of the engine room, but again, we'll come back for that until whenever we decide to tackle through you know, the next Bowser stage. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and activate that specific shortcut that I was going to be able to mention. If you manage to able to actually activate one of these teleporters right there, specifically this one, and especially on top of that, which we'll get to that in the next video, that you can able to actually activate the shortcut, so just in case you don't be bothered to able to actually walk on foot normally. So definitely recommendable though, because either way though, if you do not activate that whatsoever, well, it might actually spend you about, like, let's just say about 2 minutes or essentially 30 seconds to able to get back up there. But apart from that though, assuming if you know what you're doing, you will be fine. Alright, so this Hungry Luma actually needs about, let's just say, 1,000 of those star beads, and since we've got enough, then we can able to actually jump into the forms of the next stage. In this case, I believe it's called Sand Spiral Galaxy, so yeah, that's as far as I can say. Choosing a favorite snack. Oh, what kinds of snacks do we have? Is it like cereal bars, or cereals in general, or a fruit, or in this case a chocolate bar? Or in this case a yogurt, or you name any kind of food. But ultimately though, in this particular mission it's very self-explanatory. Basically, if you manage to get into the forms of this particular area, there's actually 2 different power-ups you can either decide to take. You can either use the Boo Mushroom, or you can use the Bee Mushroom, which either way, personally I think the Boo Mushroom is actually one of the easiest of the 2, because the forms of the actual Bee Mushroom, that's specifically for Bee Mario, then you have to utilize the forms of the Fly Meter. But as a result, Boo Mario can able to actually just essentially breeze through this, but the only thing you need to worry about though is of course the enemies, and especially noticeable with the actual beam of light, and not to mention with the forms of the water as well, so that's something that's one to pointing out. And by the way, if you manage to perform a long jump shortcut right there, now this mission can go very quick, even especially noticeable if you manage to obtain the Rainbow Mario within like twice, then you would be able to finish off the level as normal. So there you go then. Definitely a little bit more shortcut heavy than everything else. Well, at least it depends on what power-ups you're going to be choosing from the very beginning. You can either go for, you know, Bee Mushroom or the Boom Mushroom. I think, you know, the Boom Mario is actually the easiest of the two, as I said before. But anyway, that's it for that mission done, and especially the entire stage itself. And yeah, we actually got ourselves 81 power stars right now, and we'll go ahead and move on to the forms of, let's just say, the last stage for now, in the forms of the engine room, because since after all we've actually got quite enough of those power stars at the moment, which I believe it actually requires 45 of those power stars. But again, that's if you think about trying to able to be prepared by the forms of the final portion of the game, but either way though, that this particular dome, even by the forms of the 6th and the final one, is entirely optional for you if you really want to go for the center of the universe first. So anyways though, here we go on to Bowser Jr.'s Lava Reactor in King Catalate's Spicy Return. Don't worry, it's not the different kind of boss. It's basically the exact same boss as from the very beginning back in Good Egg Galaxy. So even then, the only major differences about this is that, well, we'll get to that whenever we approach to him. So even then though, that first of all, we need to able to utilize the Bullet Bill once again, much like in forms of how it did back in during the likes of in, you know, the Mega Legs Moon, except it feels a little bit tricky here, just because you know how to rely on the forms of like leaps of faith rather than just being connected paths. Well, it might be still some connective paths, but either way though, if you really want to make the actual mission itself easier, even for speedrunners out there, then you have to able to actually try to utilize the angle shot with the actual Bullet Bill itself. But even then though, because I accidentally failed one attempt on that part. But here's the thing, is that again, you need to do, you have to be extremely reliant on that specific height you have to put up with. But either way though, that once you get used to it, you will be fine. So yeah, back into what I was saying by the forms of how to fact that, actually I'll get into more details onto that specific last Sega Saturn game, as far as Sonic games are concerned, whenever we still manage to God, which is Sonic 3D Flicky's Island, which I'll mention about that tomorrow. See, even then though, because of that though, I still really need, I do apologize for the little tantrums right there, I do apologize for that again. I really need to get back into the forms of uploading schedules again, because this is getting ridiculous when it comes to like uploading schedules daily from every day. Well, it wasn't until when we get to 2020 though, we'll do a different system, but either way though, we'll mention about that whenever the year time comes. So, here we go, onto this particular boss fight right there. If I give up any more Grand Stars, my dad's going to get mad. Oh jeez, didn't like the sound of that. So, this calls for my ultimate weapon. Give them some heat, King Catalent. So basically, we have to fight against with this guy yet again for a second time, but except the fact that, well, his particular tentacles, including the actual visuals of himself, is actually a lot different. It's actually more likely like, almost like black chrome, and especially noticeable with his eyes too. His eyes is all red instead of the usual purple, which even then though, that makes it a little bit obvious. So anyways though, this guy is very self-explanatory if you remember from Good Egg Galaxy from before, except the fact that this boss fight is actually a lot harder compared to the forms of the previous attempts, because every nowadays is the fact that he does have his different attacks he has to put up with, including by the forms of how the fact that, you know, these green platforms, specifically the green hexagon platforms that you actually stand on, these can actually sink. So even then though, that we need to able to jump off from that specific one platform to another, so just in case you won't get your butt burned. And also you have to watch out for these meteor showers every once in a while. And just like usual, you have to knock back his coconut for about considering an amount of times, or in this case, this time around there is actually 7 instead of 6. And as a result, if you manage to do that like 7 times instead of 6, then the boss fight should be done no problem. So there we go. Here's the 6th Grand Star, if I could assuming that specific Grand Stars counts as far as I can memorize. And yeah, as far as I can say, well, this will go. and we're no longer going to be seeing Bowser Jr. anytime soon, well, usually kind of speaking of such, we've only to deal with him just once, and that was the forms of how it did in the forms within the Kitchen Dome, but we never actually fight him for a second time, so even then though, the actual Comet Observatory has been now fully charged into light blue, and as a result, not only does the second dome that we can, or in this case, one dome has been active, but also, you know, the sixth and the final dome has been unlocked. Which, as far as I can tell, that the actual dome is going to be called, the Garden. And as you can see, this is the only dome that actually features only 4 galaxies, because, well, the actual 6th Bowser stage was actually for the last, for the better. So, anyways, though, we got the endings off at this point right there, I'm afraid, guys. So join me next time on Let's Play Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii, is that we're going to be exploring through the Golden Dome, the 6th and the final dome. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.